Welcome, everyone. This is the Tesla Beat podcast, episode 41. Never a dull moment in the Tesla world. And, we're going to get into some of the amazing work that Alexandra and Amy did this week, along with a bunch of community members, obviously, contributing to this amazing work that she did, along with the Cybertruck tours, Giga Berlin hitting 6,000 Model Ys per week, and a bunch of other things. So shout out to Joe for putting together the deck. But thank you again, Jeff and Alexandra, for joining us this week. Obviously, Joe as well. But yeah, let's just jump into the stock. I did see, so if you're looking at it on a daily basis, it did pop about 2% today. But year to date, since January 1st, it is down about 22%. But again, it just really depends on how you're looking at it. I do know, there are a lot of stocks right now hitting all-time highs. So I know a lot of people are, feeling the FOMO right now, fear of missing out on other stocks. But, obviously you have to educate yourself and make your own decisions on how you end up investing your money. So, and that's not even financial advice. That's just my opinion. All right, well, let's just jump into Alexandra. So you have been on a tear. You and Amy have been on a tear for the past week, maybe even 2 weeks, just building a shareholder list of people and a message that you're going to be sending to the board of directors. So how about, rather than me, trying to kind of give a overview of it, you're the one who put it together, along with Amy as well. And so, just give us a rundown on what the work you did, how it ended, and where it's at even today.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I hope I'm not too late with the sound. I know we're having issues again. So it was all initially the initiative of Amy. She reacted to that Delaware court verdict, which is not a final verdict yet, but the first draft we got out of it, and said we have to stand up. And then she reached out and said, "You want to help me?" I said, "Of course." So what we did is we set up a form that allowed shareholders that wanted to express their miscontent and their request that the board addresses these issues as soon as possible. So this is a shareholder proposal that I think will be too late to be put into the proxy of the next annual shareholder meeting, because that one, it's always quite a calculation from what date was the shareholder meeting last year, what date is it going to be this year, so and so many days before, blah, blah, blah. So if you wanted to submit something for the official annual shareholder meeting, anything, Ross candidature, I'm joking, it would have had to be before December the 8th. Obviously, we're beginning of February. So a company can always decide that they include some late information, nevertheless, even though you came after that deadline. So the two of us sat down and said, okay, we're gonna do it the way that if they want to include it in this year's shareholder meeting, albeit we're late, they have all the information. And what does that mean? So when a shareholder wants to propose something, he has to give away quite a lot of information. If Ross wants to put up his candidature, he has to show how many shares he holds now, that he held these shares for at least 2 years, and whether he has options against it, whether he's hedging against it, whatever. So all this information, anybody who signed our form had to give as well, so that we kept that door open, that if ever they wanted to include it in this annual shareholder meeting, or even in a special shareholder meeting that they may organize afterwards, that they had all that information. And we thought, it was funny because we were looking at our 2 shares, and she's a big shareholder. I have quite some shares, but we thought, if it's only the 2 of us, it doesn't have the same weight as if we get to, let's say, 100 shareholders. So our initial goal the first day on Thursday was 100 shareholders. Well, that was just thrown out. Then we said, okay, let's go for 1,000 shareholders. So kept going on it on X. So from 100, we went to 1,000. In the end, we had 5,821 shareholders who signed this form. And that represented 23 million shares, which then represented $4 billion. So this is as much as 5.5 times the shares that ARK is holding. This is double the shares that Ron Barron is holding. It was really great. Obviously, we're not getting close to the index funds of Vanguard and State Street and Fidelity and all these guys, but it was absolutely astonishing how quickly it was. And do remember, it was only over 4 days. It was Thursday to Sunday. So two of the 4 days were weekends. So I've never seen anything like it. We've spoken to a couple of journalists. They said, I've never seen anything like it. Nobody has ever mobilized 5,800 shareholders with so many shares in 4 days. Never come around it. So it shows this deep love that the retail investor has for Tesla, for Elon, and for this board, because we want this board to stay as it is. We want them to do 3 things. The first is get out of Delaware. Enough with this circus. I mean, it's all good that it's getting political, but not with us anymore. We've had it. Second point is reinstate in whatever form you can the same options that Elon had in his compensation package of 2018. And third point, put in place a new compensation package that guarantees him a 25% voting right or even more, and gives him, real good goals to work towards, so that, that this is all now done. So the board has, so on Sunday, I printed it all out. That's what you just showed, John. So I was pages over pages, I think 196 pages, put it in a little box. And on Monday morning, it went with FedEx to the board, to Tesla, and they received it on Tuesday morning. So they now have an official shareholder proposal, and they have to address this. So they don't have to reply to us, but they have to take an action because they have now been asked to take an action. So the action could be multiple things. They just do the 3 things that we request, or they put this up for a vote in a shareholder proxy so that everybody can vote on it. But it was amazing. I mean, obviously the fun part of it was as well that Tesla Q obviously went into the form as well and gave me some crazy names and crazy numbers of shares and whatever. So I had to clean out the database a little bit. But I mean, it was a concerted effort. Amy did the bulk of the writing. I did the bulk of the, getting it out there, putting up the form, assembling it, and getting it out to Tesla. So I'm very proud of our 2-woman team, but even more proud of the 5,821 who did this, because it takes guts to give all this information away, right? I mean, so far only I have seen it, and now Tesla has it only on paper. But it's it takes a lot of trust and a lot of motivation of people to do that. So really want to thank everybody.
Really great work. I mean, just on behalf of all the, I can't speak on behalf of every shareholder, but for me, I think it's great work. It's great leadership, and it's getting it's getting the voice out there and making sure that they understand it. Besides, it's hard to assemble multiple tweets. It's much better to see it kind of summarized. Number of people, number of shares. Great work by both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that it's not about. I mean, it's not really about like what people put down as what their share count was. I think it's really about the fact that you were able to get so many people together in such a short amount of time to voice their opinion. Like the number is whatever the number is, but that amount of people to come together to voice their opinion collectively in such a short amount of time. Like imagine if that had a span over 2 weeks or even longer, and it wasn't just on X. You know what I mean? Like there's way more people out there in the world than just live on X. So I think the whole thing was just incredible. Just watching you guys like, just post about and then just come up with the idea, and then like I was like, holy cow, they are not messing around. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, it was, well, I didn't even know all the work that necessarily went into it, let alone, obviously Amy has been a regular on the show. Just to know that she even wrote all like the screenshot of all those pages. But she's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yeah,
in the
no doubt.
community. So shout out to, to her for all of that hard work. Shout out to you and her for organizing this. But one question I had, so I think you kind of mentioned, that the Tesla board has to take action. Could no action of just like not doing anything with this letter, or do they have to at least, put a vote on it, or at least, bring it to kind of like what some of those some of the shareholders will bring to the thing and do like almost like a vote on it and come and speak for like 2 to 3 minutes. Like what exactly, like, can you maybe just be a little bit, dive a little bit deeper into what exactly does the Tesla board have to do with this?
Yeah. So if they put it to the proxy of the annual shareholder meeting, it could very well be that it is like all these, nuns that speak for the children going into the cobalt mines. Remember all those? So that, we get a question initially at the annual shareholder meeting to address this, and then we move on, and it would be an item on the things to vote for. Again, remember, we were too late for that. That should have been the 8th of December. But Tesla can unilaterally now decide that they want to put it on. They have to do an SEC filing for that, which is quite easy, and say we got late this and this, and we're going to put this on the proxy as well. So that could be one of the actions. The second one could be that in the shareholder meeting that I think will come in the next 2-3 months. I think it's going to be May again, and we will have the proxy. We should have the proxy, in my view, in the next 2 weeks. And so it may be too short to be in that proxy, that they do another special shareholder meeting, which will not be in person, which will just be a vote one. And that's the one where we're going to vote for, are we getting out of Texas? And are we for reinstating, taking any action to reinstate the 2018 package and do a new comp package? So I don't know between the two of these. Again, people ask me, oh, did they reply? No, I don't expect any, reply. I'm not expecting a letter here or whatever. That's not what this is about. This is about shareholders proposing something to the board, and now the board has to take action, not write letters.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very helpful. But yeah, I mean, for you guys to be able to mobilize that many shareholders, over 5,000 with that many shares is truly incredible. So I think, we talked about this last week, and again, I know we don't necessarily need to get into Elon's comp, which, I mean, technically we on at least the Beat podcast, we haven't gotten your opinion. So maybe you guys could just fill in the audience that missed out last week. But for me, it's, thinking about the 3 things that you want to do, or the big action items of the actual letter that you wrote up. I mean, I would have never jumped into Tesla if it wasn't for what Elon is doing. I mean, the technology is amazing, but in 2018, when he got that comp plan, I mean, it was seen as being outrageous. But ultimately, enough of this funny business. I mean, we're in 2024. The ecosystem is so different in the electric vehicle space because of Tesla, because of Elon. And, he shouldn't have to worry about, what his comp plan was 6 years ago. Like, he needs to be focused. We need to be incentivizing him to focus on things through 2030, if at all possible. I mean, which is only 6 years away, which is crazy. So, we just passed the, 6 years from the 2018 comp plan. We got another 6 years ahead of us till 2030. And by then he's going to be what, 58, 59, maybe something, 60, whatever the age is.
No age shaming here. Be careful.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm not trying to bucket it, but I'm just saying he's not, the next 6 years are going to be, again, I don't know how long he's going to live. I don't have, a crystal ball, but the time is now, right? And the next 6 years are going to be critical for full self-driving, for the bot, for getting the robo taxi up and running, or more importantly, this mass market vehicle. And we need him. And so I have been tweeting, and this is, I don't want to say this is everyone's opinion, but I think he's the greatest asset to Tesla even today. And you get rid of him from there. Like, for me personally, I'll probably still invest in the company, but just not as much. I'll probably, move around some funds, just because that's how much I believe in what he's doing and how great of an impact he will drive. So again, thank you for all the work that you did, because I think that the people that were around in 2018, especially the retail investors who were backing him, would fully back this. Those are the same people that, are still thinking very much of like the next 6 years should have Elon a part of it. Right. So, I don't know, Jeff, do you want to say something?
I mean, I'm aligned with all the efforts, and you have to think about these things just really crisply, cleanly. Where did the value, like, in 2018 to now, the company went from 59 billion to 700 billion. Where did that value go? Where did there was real tangible assets created for many investors, for many people, for many employees, and really, honestly, they're leading the electrification of transport in the world, not just the U.S. but the world. Where did all that go? So how do you I realize the judge's text was basically around, now you're back to 2018, go figure out what the next steps are. I don't know how you even do that with the CEO. Again, where did that value go? It went somewhere. It's not like it was just like the market cap of the company went up and it's all like noise and smoke and mirrors. Like, we saw the production numbers in 2018. We see the production numbers now. There's real metal moving. There's real software moving. There's real things happening. The hundreds, over 150,000 people employed. And again, just the value created. So yeah, of course he needs to be compensated for the work done. But honestly, going forward, the work that, like you said, John, the work that's going to be done over the next 6 to 10 years is going to be even exponentially greater as AI is involved. So, and I wrote a tweet on this morning. There's talk about raising all these different funds to set up to really ramp AI silicon in the world to a whole new scale, because a lot of people are kind of thinking right now, all the thinking around AI is around network infrastructure and around data centers and so forth, but it could be literally in every device out there. And there's some talk about raising some huge funds, but I mean, we're literally in front of the greatest capital allocator in the history of the world. I think history books will properly score that. Sometimes when you're in the moment, you don't realize things, but when you look back just even a few years, you'll realize what you're experiencing. So yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on it. That value went somewhere, and I think it's going to be even greater over the next 6 to 10 years. So he's an asset. He's worth something. His time's worth something out there in the marketplace. Make sure you're compensating for it quickly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Alexandra, do you want to give like a minute tidbit on your thoughts on the comp plan too?
Yeah,
I mean,
so I wasn't
very clear with
sure.
what you
No,
wrote up and stuff.
I was an investor in 2018, but I was already looking at Tesla, and I saw it then. So you all have to know I'm obviously very capitalistic. I looked at it then. I watched CNBC at that moment. Didn't know Tesla the way I knew it before, and thought it was absolutely crazy. Now, those that have been in the company for a long time know this was actually the third comp plan. 2008 had only 2 lines, but still ambitious, made those. 2012, still very ambitious, made those. So people should have thought, well, okay, he may do those as well. He did the impossible before. But I mean, it sounded absolutely crazy. So, and it was actually, that was everybody's reaction. Anybody that, didn't know Elon deep down and knew what he was capable of thought this was just impossible. And that would have meant he would have worked for zero, right? For nothing. I think he has to take the minimum wage in California. Now he's obviously in Texas, but at that moment it was really all or nothing. And so I actually wish we would have a lot more entrepreneurs like that. Mary Barra doesn't have anything linked to her stock price. Or, there's nobody working for everybody else. So when I hear people say, oh, Elon has forgot about the retail shareholder, you've got to be kidding. He was in that boat with us as much as anybody else. So we really, and we were discussing this with Amy in depth, we really want him to have the same outcome. Again, I stressed that for a couple of times. What was voided is only options. So it's not a matter of, oh my God, he suddenly has to sell anything. I want to clear that for people that may be worried about that. This is 5 different options that would mature in March 2028. I want him to have these same options reinstated and get there, and when those moments have come, have the same price at which he can purchase these options and sell these options, because obviously part of it will also just go away because he will pay taxes on it. So the state should actually be happy about it. Well, all that to say is, if we start demotivating our entrepreneurs by, checking on comp plans with political agendas or with personal opinions, whether somebody is too rich or not rich enough, we're going into a very, very dark place. That's not what America is about. I really hope that this was a one-off. I think this is going to be very consequential for Delaware. Lots of people that have motivated CEOs are going to say goodbye. And it was a stupid decision. Now, let me just point out one last thing. It's not the final judgment yet, because this is now the phase where these class action law attorneys and Tesla should come to an agreement on how much the plaintiffs' attorneys are going to be paid. I don't think Tesla will engage in these discussions. So after, I think, 30 days, the judge has to then make up a number. This number could be huge. This number could be something like $5 billion. I mean, can you imagine? Because it's obviously linked to the amount that was underlying, but the amount underlying were options. They're not cashed in yet. But this paycheck for those people would be a cash expense for Tesla. So one way of getting around paying that would obviously to be appeal. So I do believe, and we didn't want to express that is really for the lawyers to decide whether they want to do that or not. But I do believe appeal is going to be something. And even if Tesla would move out of Delaware, that appeal would still be in Delaware. And there's only one instance left, which is the Supreme Court of Delaware. This is nothing that goes to federal court. So it would be a make and break there. But this could potentially cost a lot of cash out of Tesla's cash accounts to a class action lawyer. And one last point I want to make. Yes, it was a guy with 9 shares, but who is really behind these are these class action law firms, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for small activist investors, whether they have 1 share or 9 or 900, doesn't matter. They just need a vehicle on which they can write these out.
Yeah, thank you for laying that out. That was really helpful, and for giving us your take. All right, so getting into some Tesla news, I think we're seeing Tesla advertising in Japan and even in the U.S. or in the U.S. now. I think Sawyer had posted that they're obviously now even advertising both on X and YouTube. But I'm personally, really excited just because I think we would all agree that not necessarily that you need to do straight like marketing per se, but awareness needs to happen about these amazing cars and about charging and the ease of use for that. Because even some of like the best videos that will go viral on like TikTok and Instagram are ones literally that just trigger people, which are hey, it's like it's really easy to charge your car. Like you post a video like that, you could get 10,000 million views because people just continue to love to layer on the hate comments of like, well, you got to wait 30 minutes. And so we know that there's this huge gap in overall understanding of electric vehicles. So I've personally been really happy to see the advertising happening. And again, I don't know exactly what the pay structure for Tesla paying X for advertising. But I would assume, I don't know if it's just going to be straight payment or if there's a heavy discount. But, I know Elon did say over time that Tesla shareholders will benefit from the X acquisition. But what are your guys' thoughts on this advertising? It seems like it's been ramping. We've been seeing more of it. I know back in last year's shareholder meeting where Meet Kevin was like, hey, you should start advertising. At least that's when Elon became vocal about like, hey, I'm going to take this initiative, or at least we're going to do some testing.
Yeah, I've always been a fan that EV adoption requires education. And I think the more people are educated, the better. And I know people love to say like, why would you advertise on X? Like, well, guess what? There's over 500 million people on X, and not all of them own Teslas. There's only like 5 million Teslas on the road. So there's still people who do not even know Teslas exist. And the wild part about that is we live in California, and I can find people within my area that don't know anything about Tesla and are always surprised when I give them information. And I'm here in California. You can just imagine like places like North Dakota or whatever, you know what I mean? Like So yeah, I think it's good to have some form of information out there because people need to know, and all people read are the negative headlines, and so they don't really know a lot.
Yeah, I agree, and I posted about this. I actually think this is something that Tesla should measure. I'm not a marketing expert, but I do have expertise in measurement systems and so forth. All I would say is that from the manufacturing side, all I would say is this is something you should go out and test and get data on. What is the awareness of your product by region, by by population type? What you slice it however you'd like, but go out there and do a simple 3-question survey about, are people aware of Teslas and their pricing? Are people aware of the ease of charging and the availability of charging? Are people aware of the range? Just 3 questions. And I think what you'll find is you'll get a number. You'll get a number back. And and then what you'll take with that number is every quarter you'll try to improve the awareness of your product, and you'll tie the improved awareness to sales leads of people that actually go to your website and go through the purchasing process. There's a way to connect all this data together, and I think I'm not a all in advertise or don't. I'm not in any one of those arguments. My argument is go get the data and let the data lead you in terms of what you do in terms of next steps. So that's what I think they should be doing. I think you should be reporting out on it on quarterly, if it's the quarterly earnings calls or quarterly, just like you report production numbers, report the awareness of your product. And I think this could go a long way. I have my own anecdotal story of 4 people in my family all looking to buy a new car. They all want to go EV, by the way. 2 of them are in California. None of them were. They all thought that Teslas were $50,000 to $60,000 plus. They didn't know how charging at home worked. They didn't know the availability of supercharging. They were looking at competitive brands, and I'm like, well, how are we going to charge it? And so none of these things are just wild. I'm 0 for 4, and guess what? I'm on YouTube. I talk a lot about it, and with the family, and like nobody knew. So I'm not doing. I'm apparently I'm not an effective communicator. Maybe I have to work on that. But those are my thoughts. Go out there, get the data, test, and then see where it leads to.
You're so right, Jeff. You're so right. I had the same experience. I mean, good friends that just bought a hybrid, and I was like, I can't believe it. I mean, come on, give me a break. But 2 points. I'm always checking the Tesla career site, the jobs they're posting. There are 4 more jobs in Marina del Rey for these teams, including one that says very clearly that it is for ads on X and Instagram. So they're also going to really go heavy on Instagram. The second thing I want to say is, I'm not surprised that our Tesla community loves online ads, but I think one thing they should really pursue and test are billboards. Billboards in front of every Toyota and GM dealership with a car, with a price, nothing else, just nothing else. Because there are studies, and Nick Collas, who came on our channel a while ago, explained that you got to give it to these dealerships. We hate them all, but they know how to sell, pressure sell, right? That's what they're educated to do. So they have all the statistics Jeff is talking about. And so what Nicholas reported was that people make the decision to have a new car within a 4 to 5 day window. It's the end of the lease, or their car is breaking down, or they have they see something they like, and at the right price. That's when they make a decision. So you have a very, very short window to address this person. This is not somebody going for weeks on the internet, searching, educating themselves. So what do these people typically do? Well, 90% out there then drive to a dealership. And when they drive to that dealership, they should just see the car and the price, because especially now with the federal reduction, the tax reduction, they are so competitive that people need to be aware of the price alone to then kickstart their research, go to the showroom, whatever. And so while I love all the online initiatives they have, I really would like them, and I said that a year ago already, I would like them to test billboards. It's not expensive. I know it's traditional. I know it's like, oh my God, again, but it is a highly effective measure, a method for car buyers.
I like it.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that is some of the stuff you're saying, both of you are saying, it just really resonates with me. You know, we actually Joe and I and Kelvin had a call yesterday with someone. Shout out to another guy named John. There's a lot of Johns out there, but we were just talking about, you know, the Tesla takeover, the X takeover, and he was just saying, like, you know, the event that you guys had, like, why is there not 5,000 people at this event? Why is there not, you know, more, right? And it just comes down to awareness. And so then you go through, like, okay, how do you get this event more awareness, not only locally, but, you know, you just start going through all those things. And so it's the same exact situation where, you know, you have an experience like the Tesla takeover, X takeover, where it's very special. You're bringing, you know, top people in the industry to come talk, exhibitors, like pretty much like a whole Tesla con, Space Con, like all in one, right? And it's like pretty much, if you're a Tesla fan or a little bit more, even a shareholder, this is like an event that you have to be at, right? Outside of like a delivery event or some, you know, product launch. This is, you know, one of the best places, especially with the amount of speakers and influencers, and, you know, again, you know, our keynote speakers that are coming. So this is just a special place, and so it's just like, it's a no-brainer to be at this event. It's just a matter of like, how do you inform, you know, and get to the masses? And I think that's always the thing. So in the same way, again, I know that's the example that's in my head, but, you know, there's things like, you know, the cost to own the vehicle, the how easy it is to charge 55,000 superchargers. There's the cost of maintenance. And again, we're talking about, you know, the cost of ownership over 5 years. It's cheaper than a Toyota Corolla. How much? I think it's like $399 to lease. I mean, all of those things like are just basic things that people need to know. And then it really doesn't become a question. And even now you can go get a used, you know, 4 or 5-year-old Model 3 for less than $20,000. And you're still going to be better off. Again, if you do the research on the actual vehicle and you know it's in good shape, it's a no-brainer to really, you know, even make the transition to a 2018 Model 3. And so it's just, you know, I think I agree with you. I think that this is the next, as we're in between these really big growth periods, we're waiting for this robotaxi. I think this is going to be the hill to climb, is going to be general awareness and getting, you know, that information out to people.
Yeah, because what got you to 7 or 8% adoption rate? Let's say the U.S. alone. What gets you to that may not be what gets you to 20 or 30%.
Yeah, maybe less techie people, and you need to educate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the argument for the longest time was butts and seats is what sells Teslas. And even for when I would tell all my friends about Teslas back in 2018, 2019, they all own one now. All of my coworkers back at my, you know, my previous company, and even my sisters, they all own a Tesla. It's insane how much, you know, over 5 years has changed. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's going to go so far. People are just going to see these cars as the next Toyota Corolla, and they may not want to go get in one. They're just going to see it as like, oh, that's just what everyone has, at least in the US, or at least certain parts of the US. But there's still a huge area outside of California, outside of Texas and Florida, that just need to know about these cars. And that's going to be the biggest hurdle, as Jeff was saying. Sorry, that was a long rant. All right. So this kind of, this broke. Again, I know we may have even mentioned it with some of the people on the podcast last week, but specifically, you know, Tesla Giga Berlin has hit over 6,000 Model Ys in a single week. I mean, crazy to think. I mean, I know Shanghai's they're leading the way on this stuff, but I remember they were barely even making it to 5,000 per week in the Fremont factory. So pretty insane. But what is everyone's thoughts on, you know, hitting this milestone, and you know, how important is the, you know, building the supply chain and the production capacity?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Joe, please.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to say, like, super fast, like, one of the things that I liked that Lars mentioned was how no matter what continent you're on, Tesla is supply chained for that continent for these vehicles. So it's the most Berlin-esque vehicle made over there, just like the ones here are the most American made here. So I think the supply chain they lock down, like Jeff mentions all the time, And so I think this is it's just a boom for that economy. And I don't think enough conversation happens about that, about what Tesla brings to each area it goes into, and the economy and the jobs that are made by 6-tier suppliers and all these people that are like happy that they got, you know, this job and that they got this contract. So I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, as Berlin scales, you know, closer to 10,000 a week, they're they're utilizing more of their fixed assets, so this takes their COGS down. And the biggest unfavorable headwind to Tesla COGS over the last 2 years has been opening Berlin and Austin, because you open a new factory, they start out very underutilized and they crawl up eventually to their peak run rate. And when they hit their peak run rate, they've got the minimum drag on COGS, and they're where you want them to be, especially them being new factories. So right now, I mean, they're still at, they're 6K, and if they want to get this first phase to maybe 10K, we're not sure. They still have a ways to go, but as they fill it up, their COGS come down, and that's really important. It's an important thing for Tesla, for gross margins and improving gross margins. So it's a great thing. They may have hit this, in the last month or so. I mean, we don't know the exact week they hit it. Remember, they're shut down for the Red Sea issue, where basically there's a phase offset in supply coming in. That offset gets remedied, I think, probably end of next week. And then basically then they've got a continuous flow of material coming back in. So I don't think that'll be a big issue. But the point is they were able to get their capital at this rate. They were able to get their labor at this rate, and that'll take their cost structure down.
Yeah, I just want to add, so I heard from Berlin, from people in Berlin, that they were actually at 6,000 already in December. So I think that's great. We may, sometimes have a little bit of delay in reporting. I also want to add that we have now the first career opportunities in Mexico, and there I hear the same things, that a lot of suppliers are now recruiting and planning factories around the new Giga Mexico site. So as you said so well, Joe, it brings a whole infrastructure to a region. Berlin, Brandenburg, where in Grünheide, where the factory is, was a difficult area where they had a lot of job losses rather than job creation, and it's been thriving now. Tesla is, as in Austin, the biggest taxpayer now in the region, and schools and obviously suppliers and everything that comes with it. And I just don't think we give this enough credit. I mean, 140,000 direct employees, but there's so much indirect job creation and so much infrastructure and economic gain that is coming with all these Tesla factories that I really hope people understand that, and even the enemies of Tesla admit it, because there is no other car maker in the world that currently has this type of push. Yes, there is BYD, but BYD is doing lots of stuff by themselves. They're not going to have the same infrastructure around them than Tesla has.
Yeah, I specifically remember I had friends that worked at the NUMMI plant when it shut down, and those were people that were out of work. And when Tesla took that over, which would now become the Fremont factory, like, they were just happy to be working again. And I think that just says a lot about the company. Like you could just see the images, like what Alexandra was saying. Like, these places were underserved. Like, the NUMMI plant was gone. You know what I mean? Like, there were that was just like blank. There was like nothing. Nobody knew what was going to happen there. Like, you can look at freaking Texas, like that was a marsh field. You know what I mean? Like, China was a marsh field. Like, Texas was like just empty land, like with all kinds of crap on it. And even in Berlin, these are areas that made their community, that made a community around Tesla. And there's really just not enough appreciation for the fact that these jobs are making differences in people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on a rant, but that's why it's and I think Jeff, you mentioned the number. It was like 150,000 jobs now, And Elon always says, for every one job, you essentially employ 10 more through like suppliers and, and other options as well. And so, you're talking 1.5 million people that are employed. And so it's one of those things where people aren't giving this credit enough credit. They're not giving them enough credit for what they're doing, for the lives that they're changing. I mean, people, that work even in service are able to live in the Bay Area because of how the stock has done, the stock run has done over the past 6-7 years. Obviously, it might be a little bit different if you're entering now, but people that are in blue collar work are now, millionaires because of the stock run up. And, whether you're a janitor to, a vice president, everyone is getting stock. And I think, again, unions have their benefits and their, the pros and the cons, but this company is doing so much good and has done a lot of good. And really Elon's companies, I mean, we haven't even gone to what the impact that SpaceX is having on space exploration and how they're even being snubbed in some ways by the current administration. But what Tesla is doing and how it's changing the economies that it's in is just insane. Like they're going to potentially go to India. I think at some point, who knows, they're going to announce another APAC, whether at some point it's Australia or Thailand or Indonesia, wherever they're going to put the next, gigafactory. And then they're going to continue to expand the ones that they have, like Nevada, potentially New York, Austin, all of these areas. And you're even seeing it, especially even Austin. You're seeing that area. Like, I think I went out there a couple of years ago and I was like, this town is just going to change. And it is. It already was, even kind of before Elon was kind of showing up. But he's gonna accelerate that a lot because of the amount of jobs that he's gonna provide to the locals there. So, yeah. So it's awesome to see that the production is ramping. Here again, this is so shout out to or not shout out, but like Choice Hotels. I think we've already seen a couple of other hotels out there who've made these announcements, but Tesla strikes a deal with Choice Hotels to install thousands of EV chargers. And then, Joe, I thought I'd clump this with it as well. Tesla partners with an N1 gas station chain to more than triple the supercharger network in Iceland. And we've seen that even when I go to a Shell, it's technically, I think, a charge point, but they stick a Shell logo on it to say it's like a Shell like gas station or whatever, or charging station. But Tesla really is becoming, the OEM for the charging network for the future gas station. And so it's really, really, I mean, you're talking years of hard work for them to kind of get to this point where, hotels are even coming to them, gas stations are coming to them. They know that this is the future and they know that they need to make this transition. But I don't know, again, this is more of like, I don't know if there's like a nail, like of a award on the wall, or if you guys have any thoughts on these type of announcements.
It's just inevitable. I mean, like there was no charging network, which is why Tesla had to create one when they came out with the EV. It's just it was what it was, and now you see the fruits of their labors, right? It's just one of those type of things that, like, well, we gotta power these vehicles when people want to take road trips, and so they created infrastructure, and now it's like it's one of those things, just another one of those things that people just did not realize is just a chess move by Tesla that come to fruition like freaking a decade later. It's like there's over 55,000 freaking chargers around the country, around the world. And I mean, shoot, you can drive anywhere. You're no more than like 50 miles from any supercharger. It's madness. So
it's awesome. Great. And I really would like a shout out to Rebecca Tinucci, who is in charge of charging. You remember her probably from the Investor Day, the great presentation she did. I love this woman. I really find that on the charging side, we're having, I want to just say, another strong woman.
You might want to repeat that. Something about a strong woman, it cut you off.
Yeah. I said a strong woman in Tesla's leadership.
Okay. But yeah, no, I mean, shout out to the charging team. I mean, they're killing it. And really, I think in the next couple of months, aren't Ford vehicles going to be allowed on the network? So
Yeah,
that's going to
they're
be,
giving out the charger, the adapter now.
yeah, exactly. So that'll be an interesting, I think it's nice that it's not just opening up to everybody quite yet, but given the amount of Ford EVs, we'll see how that works, especially at some of the more congested stations, if they're even open to like Ford vehicles and stuff.
Mm.
All right. So, the lithium refinery is just it's moving along. So, a lot of updates here. So shout out to Joe for just getting out there and taking some amazing shots outside Corpus Christi. But I think this is just one thing, people continue to forget. Like, this is Tesla continuing to step into more of their vertical integration and leaning into that, and really owning their own destiny with owning every part of the supply chain and literally every part of the battery and how it's put together, how it's made, how it's even refined, and pulling the lithium out of the earth. So really cool to see the progress there. And then this was interesting too. Redwood Materials, they posted this video of the Cybertruck literally carrying some of the actual recycled items from the battery. But really cool, as more and more electric vehicles are going to be put on the road, recycling them is going to be more important than ever. So it was really, really cool to see that. Joe, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I just think they're like, I mean, JB Straubel is amazing, right? And everybody knows that. But to get ahead of this as quickly as he did when he stepped down from Tesla, and everybody thought, oh, it's the end of the world. But he realized that this was the new gold in the mountains. Like, this is the way you mine more ore. This is the way you get more materials for batteries. Like these are going to come around. Like these vehicles are going to get old. People are they're going to crash them. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to need to recycle the battery. And I mean, his awareness and his ability is to see beyond what we see in that moment is like, it's pretty incredible. I'm glad he's back on the board, because I mean, he has a vision that I don't think a lot of people realize, like, and appreciate what he does for just the economy of all EVs and what he's been able to do. I mean, that's just, I think it's amazing that they have the Cybertruck, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get plenty more. So.
I would like to add something that I haven't actually shared anywhere, but I found a couple of months ago. JB Straubel could have not come earlier to the board. There is actually an SEC rule that if you were an executive in the firm and you leave the firm, you can't come back as a board member for 3 years. So he had to sit out those 3 years before he could come back. And I think that's interesting for all of us to know, because he didn't sit it out any longer. Once the 3 years were over, he was there.
Wow, I didn't realize that. But either way,
you learned something today.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
I did. And obviously, given your background and studying the board members, that's awesome. Joe, sorry, were you going to say something? No, oh no, I meant Jeff. Sorry, it's like pointing to, it's like tiled. Okay, one other thing too that is big is Tesla is continuing to expand. And actually, they've even since now have changed their Twitter handle or X handle to Tesla_Americas. But now they are now launching the configurator for the Model 3, Model Y in Chile. So huge, very exciting to see. I think we met someone who was local who actually took a Tesla from Alaska all the way down to the bottom of South America. And so, yeah, it literally took him months to do, if not half a year, like 5 months, because, you get into some places, there's literally like just a wall charger. So, and potentially no charging at all. So, pretty incredible. But either way, it's really cool to see them, start to expand into some of these other regions.
I think that goes missed by a lot of people whenever they talk about the 30 number of that Tesla wants to create by 2030, right? Like, I mean, the 20 something million,
20
vehicles.
million.
Yeah, 20 million vehicles by 2030. So I think it's a point that's missed, that there's so many areas that Tesla's not even in yet. These are people that haven't seen a 2012 Model S. They haven't seen a 2016 Model X or a 2018 Model 3. You know what I mean? These are people that this is their first foray into Tesla. And I just think like a lot of that gets missed, man. Like there's so many areas that Tesla's not in that they are about to be in, that I think adds to that number. I'm pretty sure Jeff can speak more about that.
Yeah, no, it's you're spot on, Joe. It's just one of the most underlooked things is not only Tesla, but just EV penetration globally. We experienced with this going from 0 to 1.5 billion smartphones, and we would look at global penetration and then by country, and you realize how many years it actually takes to get the kind of network. Remember, to use a mobile phone, be on a 4G network, you need network infrastructure for that to work. Same thing on the vehicle side. You need the network infrastructure. You need the electrical infrastructure for charging. So all these things go hand in hand. So you're going to have a multi-year, expansion of EV. And South America is obviously huge, and there are other EV competitor companies that are setting up manufacturing, because there's a lot of protectionist policies in many of the countries down there as well. Brazil and Argentina, which are huge, are two for starters. So if you want to build and not pay a 35 or 50% import duty, you'd have to build locally in the country. So long way to go on EV penetration, a long way to go for Tesla. People wonder, like, where's the volume going to come from? It's going to be continuing this global expansion.
Yeah, I was going to say too, right? I think you talked about all these like headwinds of entering some of these countries. And so like if you think of India, and that you pretty much have to build a lot of it there, if not the whole thing there or something, whatever the regulations are, by the time they can even penetrate the country and potentially like get everything set up, I mean, the mass market car, again, assuming it has a steering wheel, they could potentially even start building that there, which is crazy. And who knows, maybe they even have another alternative at that point. But if you're thinking the next 3 to 5 years, that's perfect timing for some of these other countries that they're trying to enter into, or to really stand up some of these new factories. Like Giga Mexico will be up and running by then. We also have probably 1 or 2 other factories either being built or up and running in 3 years. So it is exciting to see them build the capacity to obviously be able to handle the demand, but also to just entering these new markets are not easy, and it takes time, as we all know. One of the other things too that has been going on is the Cybertruck tour, and it started in China, because I think that's shout out to Ray, who asked Elon to do it, or not. He didn't ask, but either way, he was like, they got it to go to China, and now it hasn't stopped. It's going to Japan. I heard it's going to Germany next. It's just, really, I mean, this is the most polarizing probably product launch ever, and most viral product ever launched. And so it's one of those things where it's just really exciting to see, this kind of go to other parts of the world so that they can see and enjoy like literally what is hitting the road right now.
Yeah, and I did a interview or conversation with Tesla Fix, and he's over there, and to think that you can have a brick of a freaking Cadillac Escalade on the roads in Europe, and you cannot have a Cybertruck. People really need to get their mind right and realize that there are freaking bigger vehicles with bigger front ends than the Cybertruck running around Europe. And to think that they can't have a Cybertruck is kind of like a really stupid thought.
I don't think it's the size. I think it's the sharpness of the corners. In Europe, they have these weird detailed rules. And I think it's the sharpness of the corners that is currently not making it possible. So that could be an easy fix. I mean, it would obviously alter the image a little bit, but if it's only that, I don't think that it would be difficult to make it Europe compliant.
A Lamborghini Aventador is pretty sharp looking.
That's true.
Yeah, if I were Tesla, I wouldn't. I would. You're in a position where these countries want access to your manufacturing. They want access to your engineering teams. So I wouldn't. I wouldn't change the tooling. I try to have as common as tooling as much as you could globally, and I would try to get this in. And I'm not even 100% sure. This is even still blocking, but yeah. Right now, the whole goal for Tesla right now is to get Cybertruck scaled in its home region first, so that people that have ordered them can get them, in a pretty reasonable time. But it is exciting to see them show it to these other countries, because when they open up orders for there, I mean, trucks don't normally do this well globally. So this is why I think this product may transcend multiple categories and not just be a conventional truck, but more of kind of an iconic statement, vehicle that, I think you're going to get pretty decent adoption in multiple countries that just don't even buy a lot of trucks.
Has any of you three already received yours?
Literally, literally waiting. I think that's
Literally. All of you?
yeah. No, I have a VIN, so I'm literally just waiting for it. Kilowatt, shout out to Ryan. He got his VIN a day later, but he flew out to Austin to pick it up. So he's been riding across. Yeah, and I'm like, unfortunately don't have that type of time. But he got his technically before mine. So I think hopefully any day now it'll hit the Bay Area. I know it's in California right now. It just needs to hit the Bay Area. But there's been a lot of people that have been getting it. I mean, a lot of customers, I've been seeing it. Or maybe it just feels like a lot of people, but it's just
not around here. Tesla,
you want to send any
to Chicago? You want to send any to the Chicago area? I'll be the first one of the first people to help test it for you. Can do snow testing, could do bullet testing, could do a number of different things.
Anything.
Yeah.
I might have to bring mine. No, I don't know if I want to try bullets on that thing, right? Too expensive. But I think, you're starting to see people do some crazy stuff with this thing, right? Customizing picks, like shout out to Sparks Motors, literally putting, it's like a snowmobile on steroids. So pretty insane, but people are doing anything and everything to these things. One thing I think we could close out on, I mean, there's obviously a bunch that we can get into, but you are going to start to see more and more incentives happening probably throughout the quarter. I mean, and it sounds like this can be added onto, it can compound on top of all the other benefits, any other discounts. It's not like a one-off, but there is unlimited supercharging if you have an older vehicle with it, whether it's a Performance Model 3 or S and X. You can now upgrade, and in the US, Canada, and I guess Mexico, for the S3, X, and Y, for pretty much the whole sex. No, I don't think the 3. I don't think you can transfer it to a 3. But we should, or can you? On any new? I guess so. Jeez, that's crazy. Okay. So if that's the case, man, that's crazy. So the incentives are coming. There's probably going to be more discounting, but also too, like the Model 3 refresh is coming out and hopefully starting to be delivered in the next couple of weeks. So a lot happening, but I think those were the main topics that I wanted to hit this week. And the funny thing is that we ended pretty much on time. I mean, there's some other things going on, but either way, those were the main things that we wanted to talk about. So thank you, Alexandra and Amy, for all the hard work on that shareholder letter. Hopefully they can take action. And I don't, unfortunately, as we all know, anything with legal issues always takes forever. But if we could, I wish this would just be handled quickly so that we can get through this noise and focus on where this company needs to go. So thank you again for the efforts on that. And then also too, just thank you to Jeff and Joe for being regulars. Make sure to patronize everyone. Give them a follow on X, or if you need the links, they're also on the YouTube description. So make sure you give them a follow. And thank you everyone for tuning in this week. Have a great week.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
Thank you.